Alright guys, welcome back to the shop tonight. This is going to be a long one, so bear with me if you want to see how I make an 1/8 inch thick cab mount for a pickup. This case, a first gen Dodge. Now if you watch my other video where I hack and pack job that white truck, this is going to be more professional, I'll tell you that right now. I'm not standing behind that job saying it was professional in any way, shape, or form. That's my beater farm truck. It's not a restored truck. It's a work truck. It doesn't have to be perfect. But this time around, I'm gonna do this restoration quality, I guess you could say. Anyway, obviously you don't need to use 1/8 inch. That's just me being me and using something far heavier than what it needs to be. But yeah, here we go. So the first thing you need is a sheet of steel. This is again 1/8 inch. You can use thinner if you want, and it's slightly rectangular. It's 16 inches in one direction and 13.5 in the other direction. And this, what I have laid out here, is going to be for a right side cab mount. Now the first thing that I do is you want to draw a line 1 inch in around 3 sides of it. That line, those are gonna be your flanges where you weld to the floor pan and to the inner rocker. And now when you measure in, maybe we'll go this way. So this is going to be the back. This is facing the front of the truck. And so our first line is 1 inch in. We're going to draw another line that is just under 4.5 inches in. And we're going to go all the way. And now our next line is going to be right about 8 inches in. Again, go all the way, and then again at the top, 1 inch in, draw a line. Now, this is a little trickier here. So now once you have them done, put your tape measure this way. Your first line here, this is going to be, I got it right about 4 3/4 inches. And there's always a hole in the bottom of the cab mount. That'll be right here. So now, your first line is 4 3/4. Your next line is going to be at about 8 5/8. And then you're going to do another line at 12.5. Now the parts that I have scribbled out here, that's the waist. That's should be the only waste you have here. The rest of this should end up, being part of the cab mount. Now, right, these lines are where it bends, because it starts flat and then it goes uphill and then it levels off again. So, I'm going to get my marker. So this is flat, and then this part is going to go uphill, and then this part here is flat again. And this here, in the center of this, is where the hole is for the cab mount bolt. And then this here is going to be bent uphill again to meet these lines here. So since this is going to be uphill, you got to cut a wedge out right here. And then since this piece is flat, you got to go straight again. And then here, this line ends up going right 1 inch in from the end on both sides. And all right, today is a few days later, and welcome back to the shop again and back on this project. I lost my paper where I had all of this figured out on, so I'm kind of trying to remember it and flying by the seat of my pants here. So there's going to be some edited out clips and spliced in crap, but we'll get her, don't worry. So I was a little wrong here. Now for this line here, you want to measure in 14 inches from this end of the steel, and you're going to draw a line right there. And that's going to result in this flange here being 13 inches long once you cut out this corner. So you're going to do that on both the top, or front and back, top, bottom, depending how you look at it. And now in the middle, I left off with explaining how this is going to bend up and go over. So this line here where this bend is, since this is moving up, is actually going to be back about 1/4 of an inch once it's bent. So this line is going to line up with this line right here once it's bent. So now from this line here, that's 1/4 inch back from this bend, you're going to draw a line up to here. And now you're going to need to take and connect with a straight edge this line here to that line there, which I will do off camera here quick. Now hang on, actually, you have to connect them on this side, but you can't do the same on the front side, because this is only 2.5 inches here and it's 3.5 inches here. So the angle needs to be the same, and obviously if you go the same distance with an inch difference on this leg of your triangle, your angle is going to be different. So you need to come down 1 inch straight from here. I'll measure it out quick, and then make your angled line. Okay, so I extended this line down 1 inch and then connected it to there. So this is now the same angle. And now everything out in this area is going to get cut off as scrap. And now I will take the grinder with the cutoff wheel and I will cut all of that out. Alright, so I just took the grinder to it and I nipped out both of these corners, and then right here you want to cut this. It doesn't show up real well, but cut this up to your 1 inch line, so you have a 1 inch cut there and there. Do not cut right here, because this is where you're going to bend it. And then here's this piece that I cut out of here, and then this piece out of there. And now halfway along here I put another cut in up to this line. That's just kind of a relief cut, for lack of a better term, for bending it. And your hole for the cab mount bolt's going to go in here. I'm not going to drill that. That'll be the very last thing, because that way you can, if something doesn't end up quite right, you can drill a hole a little bit wherever you need it to be to match up with the bracket on the frame. But now it's time to start bending it, and the only thing that I have to work with to bend this is that vise over there, which is the reasoning for this cut here. The very first bend you're going to make is going to be these pieces right here. Okay, over to the vise. And you're going to start by bending these two down. So I'm going to clamp it in here. Now bend. Okay, there's the first tab, and now we're going to do the exact same with this one. Order of operations is very important here, because if you do it a different way, you're not going to be able to get everything to work out. Very careful not to cut yourself on the ends. I should be wearing gloves, but alright, so now it looks like this. And now the next one is you're going to bend this tab the opposite direction. So just set her in here like so. Now we got to go forward. Now you have something that looks like this. Now your next step is going to be to bend here and here. So now we got a little bit of a dilemma here because the throat of this vise is not deep enough to get all the way up to that bend. Now it should work out just by bending it, you know, it should bend where you want it to, but it's gonna end up as kind of a rounded edge, I guess, for lack of a better term. So to try to get a little more of a crisp edge out of it, I'm just gonna clamp some scraps 1/4 inch into the vise to almost act as a jaw extension per se, and hopefully we can get a nice neat bend that way. Okay, that's in. Now now we have something that looks like this, and we need to do the same thing on this side. Now you see how I started on the shorter side first, because in order to finish this I'm going to have to go in here like this, and I got to put my steel back in there. But had I started with the long side, that would make making this bend a little more difficult. So we'll just call that good. Make your bend. I'm going to grab my dead blow hammer quick. Now, this is where I was saying it's important to bend the short side first, because otherwise this is going to hit before you get it bent far enough. And there, a little persuasion. Now you got something like this taking shape, huh? Now the next part is going to be bending this bottom to fit in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is clamp this in here just to hold it, and just push down, and it'll bend all the way back here where we want it. Okay, now we have something that looks like this. And the next step before we try to bend this is to weld from here down to this corner. So I have to bend that side up just a titch, but now you're going to weld this in, and once you get it welded to this corner, then you're going to pull this back down straight and keep welding to this corner, and then bend it back up and continue on. And now these outside flanges, the reason I cut this is so I can bend this one at a time, because I can't really bend this all in one straight shot on this vise. So now I have welded where it makes that angle uphill. So now once you get it welded to the corner, you can take and pull this out and it'll bend. You want to bend it so it's then flat again with this part right here out to this corner, and then your next step is get this bent to this corner and continue the weld on either side. Okay, now I bent this flat again. When you're doing this, the perfect way to weld it is to have the edges meet like that. So then you have a little pocket for the weld bead to sit in. Then when you get done, you can take the grinder and you can smooth over this bead and it'll look just like where it's bent. Now I just got the end bent, and in order to do that, since I can't quite get it in the vise with the sides folded up, I took this piece of heavy flat steel and I put it in here on the line where it needed to be bent, and then I clamped it in the vise like this to hold it, to bend it, if you understand what I'm saying. I started out straight, and this piece would have been in here straight, clamped it like that, and then used it to make my bend. So now I got to weld them two seams up. Once you get that welded up like so, the next step is to bend the flanges out. And again, that's why I made this little 1-inch cut, because I can't bend this whole thing at once. But so I'm gonna put it in here like so. I also tack welded this here and over here to keep this square when you're working on bending the tabs. So I'll get this set up in here. Alright, I got the first one bent, and then I moved it down to the other side. So now it's time to bend that side. Can be done by hand with a little effort. Well, there I got my long side bent. I have to touch that up a little bit, but it'll work out. Now I gotta flip it around and do the shorter side. Now I got it set up like so. I'm bending the other side. And you can cheat a little bit with proper wrench placement to make it easier to bend. Come on. There. Just gotta clean it up, touch up a few things. And one more thing is this end. Because the factory floor pan makes a bend about halfway across this thing. So actually, I guess I screwed this up. This shouldn't be bent at a 90. This should be bent kind of like that. I'll have to fix that. Well, here is the quote-unquote finished product. This is a drain hole, I think, that they put in them, and I purposely did not drill the hole for the cab mount bolt, because that way, once you get it welded into the truck, you can drill it, you know, then you can drill it exactly where it needs to be, whether it's one way or the other, and then it doesn't end up all off. And now I got the welds ground smooth, so it's a nice rounded corner all the way. Now this end, like I was saying before, I don't know exactly what this angle is here. I'm just kind of guessing. Might have to tweak it one way or the other. But on this tab on the end, about halfway through, where's where the floor pan bends. So really the floor pan will kind of come off of it after about halfway. I mean, it'll be fine. It all depends on how picky you want to get, I guess. If you wanted to bend this up kind of and make it all straight, by all means go for it. But I mean, this is a solid unit here that is, once it's in there, nobody will be able to really pick her apart from the original, and should last a long time. Go compare it to the one on the truck and we can see how it looks. Like I say, this is a right side mount. The left side mount is going to be like this, but you're going to have to reverse which side is the tall side. You're going to have to reverse the dimensions, basically. Maybe I'll do a video and go through the process making a left side one. But yeah, we'll get there when we get there. And then I also made this piece. This is the piece that connects the floor support, they call it. Flip this upside down. This piece will sit on here like this, and then the cab mount bolt goes through it. And then this, I think it's this side actually, it's got to get bent up to meet the support that goes up to the firewall, and then this tab's got to get bent up to match this angle. Yeah. Anyway. So there you have it. There's a factory original one. I know the lighting down here is terrible, but do the best I can. And then here is the one that I just made. I mean, it's awful close. Definitely close enough to work. Depending how proper you want to get, a guy could weld up and grind smooth these tabs too, but it's obviously not going in this truck, but it'll be going in my dually whenever I get to that project. But once it does go in there, it'll be a lot better than the rusted out one. It'll be better than it was and good enough for what it will be.